Hi everyone, welcome to the live session with Zahn Associates. Today we're going to be talking about the huge backlog that USCIS is seeing. I mean, we're talking about triple the amount compared to 2016. This news report just came out and there's a lot of things to unpack here, right? Why are cases taking so long is a question that I get constantly asked. It used to not be this way 5 years ago, 10 years ago, 15 years ago, right? When I did it, when my cousin did it, but the backlog we're seeing with USCIS is a triple the amount. And it's not just a small number, right? Before it was, like 3 million backlog of cases. Now it's over 11 million in backlog cases, which means cases can take 13, 15, 18 months to process. Back then, I remember reentry permits that took 2 months to 3 months to process. Now it's easily taking a year and a half to process. And what is a reentry permit? That's essentially saying, hey, I need to leave the country. I want to come back. That's it. You're paying like hundreds of dollars. You get this reentry permit and you only need to leave for 6 months to a year, but it takes over a year and a half before it gets issued. And that's just reentry permit. We're not even talking about everything else, right? Some investor visas are taking, again, 2-3 years, right? And again, last week we just did a mandamus action. We talked about the success story on that, and that took like almost 2-3 years to process. Again, they invested $1 million to get a green card and they still have to wait millions. They'll wait like 2-3 years. So let's unpack this news a little bit because there's a lot of name calling, there's a lot of blame game going on. I'm going to talk about this in a more sophisticated light so everybody can see it kind of all sides and all the contributing factors. There's a lot to learn from this, but also what's the key takeaway? What can you do, right? Because last week we just, on this live channel, we just talked about success story and doing how to expedite your process, right? A humanitarian explanation, how do you get the advanced parole super quick, how to do a mandamus action and sue the government. And on that matter, let's talk about that a little bit right now. Just because there is a 13-month, 15-month backlog on this type of case does not mean the government gets a free pass on the mandamus action. What is the mandamus action? The mandamus action is saying you are taking too long to adjudicate something that is supposed to be fast, right? Congress made your agency, and your agency is supposed to process these. And just because of all these other factors that has caused this huge delay doesn't mean you are now excused. I can understand. I'm not blaming you personally. I'm not attacking your character. I'm sure you're working hard. You're not lazy. But the inefficiencies of this administration, of this agency, is not working. And it's causing delay, and now we need the federal courts to jump in, right? So just because in the past few years there's such a long backlog, doesn't mean you can take an extra amount of, extra year to process a case that should be taking months. So that's the basis for a lot of mandamus actions. But let's talk a little bit about this backlog. The first thing I want to mention is that they're working fast. And if they were not as expedient as they are working, if USCIS did not implement a lot of the processes in the past few years, it would be even longer, right? I want to give where credit is due. In all these years of attending AILA, talking to USCIS officers, talking to the administration, and the changes they made to trying to automate the biometric system, trying to automate the USCIS phone system, they've done a lot with the little resources that they have to make a lot of things faster. So there are great improvements, right? And then let's talk about some of them, right? The online filing has made things a lot faster for a lot of people. In the past few years, the I-90 was taking a year and a half to 2 years right after COVID. And then once the online system went out, we saw some I-90s get issued as fast as 2-3 months. So there's been a lot of improvement with USCIS. But how come there's still the triple amount of backlog from 3 million cases to 13 plus million now, or over 11 million now? Like, these are backlog cases. Without any new cases coming in, just processing all of these is going to take like 13, 14 months. It's absolutely insane. So I just want to start by saying I see a lot of blaming going on. And a lot of the blame goes to this administration. And I want to say that there's just so much to unpack and it is not entirely fair. And so one of the first things is, do you know how many people are still applying for benefits and for applications in the United States, right? So with everything that we're seeing, a lot of my friends, family, clients, they're like, are people even immigrating anymore? Or do people even want to come to the US anymore? Like, why do people even want to come to the US? If you look at the numbers on how many applications there are in every single category, from COVID till now, it's gone up so much. It's gone up so much. So not just talking about how applications are stalled and taking longer, and that's why there's a backlog. There's also been an increase in filing. As a business immigration law firm, I can affirmatively say, in the past few years, and even the past year and this year, with the administration, because of how many people used to use tourist visas, used to use ESTA, used to quote unquote take advantage of the easy visa process, or just cross illegally and just work without authorization. Because of how strict they are, now everybody is pushing for the legal immigration pathways. And so there's an increase in business immigration filings and visa applications. That's one thing. The second thing is, because of how strict things are and difficult, the people who qualify are now much more incentivized to apply. And we're talking about people who are green card holders, who for years and years and years think, it's okay, I'm a green card holder, it's the same as a citizen, I don't care. But because of what they're seeing, it's like, no, I better become a citizen. So citizenship applications have risen. And so in the past few years, from COVID till now, right, during Biden's administration, when they pushed for STEM, national interest waiver applications, averaging 4,000, 5,000 applications a year in the past 10, 20 years, suddenly jumped to 10,000, 12,000, right? And so, does that contribute a lot to the 13 million backlog? It moves the needle a little bit if we're counting the years that led up to it. So one of the first things I really want to mention is that there's an increase in application. So it's not just USCIS being lazy. Increase in application is a huge part of it. The second thing I want to mention is that whether you agree or disagree, but global politics play a huge role in the backlog. In the past few years, when Russia invaded Ukraine, Israel and Palestine, withdrawal from Afghanistan, just these three incidents alone, not thinking about everything else that happened around the world with all the TPS applications and everything else, just these three alone probably added over 1 million new cases that are urgent and expedited, right? Think about how many people we had to withdraw from Afghanistan to apply immediately for the EB4 applications. I know a lot of USCIS officers that were transitioned to approve and adjudicate those cases when they were working on other cases, right? So there's been a decrease in other case applications, processing time, and moved over to deal with these urgent situations. You might say, well, that's not fair. Why should they get priority treatment? That's beyond the question, right? Should the U.S. prioritize Afghan applications? Should the United States prioritize applications from Iran, Israel, Palestine, and Ukraine, and Moldova, and all these other surrounding regions when there was an invasion? I don't know, right? That's your call. But I'm just saying USCIS made the decision to do that, and that's why there's such a huge backlog. So that's global politics, right? And then there is the hiring freeze, right? During COVID, during the shutdown, during the furlough, a lot of people retired. A lot of people were furloughed. A lot of people were bought out to be able to retire early. I don't agree with that. I definitely think USCIS lost a lot of really capable officers and a lot of capable individuals who've been there for decades to serve and to do things well, and they lost a lot of talent. And I don't like how USCIS is giving them way more responsibility without the proper training or the resources to do their job. And I think that's the number one way to break down an agency and cause the backlog. So from an HR perspective, I disagree with that, and that caused significant delays. But I'm not the government and I don't have all the facts, right? Maybe they need to do this because of AI is coming, because they're automating a lot of things, because it's in the long run, it's gonna make things a lot better. I run multiple organizations and I understand that sometimes one choice has other, decisions behind it. So, but that is another major reason why there is such a huge backlog. Now, let's talk about this particular administration and the huge amount of additional stress that it caused this agency, right? Suddenly re-adjudicating a bunch of cases from the Biden administration, whether this is for political reasons or it is score political points. Is there actual national security reason behind it? It is adding a lot of workload. Now, if you grant that it is for the right reason, that they should re-adjudicate, well then, that's just that much more cases that they have to, review. Having to interview, mandatory interviews, increased interviews for family-based applications as well as for business applications. That suddenly, again, doubles the amount of work USCIS has to do, if not triple the amount of work that they have to do. For national security reasons, for whatever reason, if you grant these reasons, these are all reasons why the backlog exists. And so, is it fair to blame this one administration? I don't think so. Do they do things that I disagree with that's causing the delay? I definitely think there is. But USCIS and the officers that work there and the ones that I meet and I see and I interview with and we work with at AILA, we could see that they are working hard and they're trying their best and they're doing things as fast as they can. They're adjudicating. If they, like memos come out nationally saying, oh, we're not going to approve day of. I go down to downtown LA, we do an interview, the officer says, I'm going to approve you, and that night the case gets approved. Whatever executive order is happening, whatever national policy is happening, it's still the individual officers that are trying to make things right in the world and trying to do their job well, right? And so when I see numbers like this and I see, on TikTok and YouTube Shorts, just people blaming and bashing, I don't feel like that's the full context. And so the key takeaway I really want people to see is that USCIS, they are trying to utilize AI to automate a lot of things. Like one of the first things is they're going to try to make a lot of things online filing, right? For the past 20 years, 30 years, as long as I can remember, they've been trying to do online filing. And in just the past few years, they've been made huge strides. And the online application that they did roll out actually works compared to how it was done in the past. And that's going to drastically reduce significantly future application and processing time, right? But right now, it's just a huge bottleneck. But it's not all because of one policy. It's because of a lot of things added together. And people need to give USCIS time. And we also need to hold them accountable to the things and the promises that they made, right? So these are just things that I want to quickly share. And if you did file a case and it's taking really long and you can't wait and you need a humanitarian exception to process it faster, go back and check out our last week's live. We talked about a success story, multiple success stories actually, of how to expedite things and how that has worked. But I'll answer questions now.
Yeah, so my 751 I got the receipt for, and now can I travel to a different state for work? We've been married for almost 3 years.
Absolutely. You can travel for work, you can work anywhere. But if your question is asking, well, I already filed the 751, what if the interview comes a year, 2 years, 3 years from now, and the officer asks me, hey, is this a real marriage, right? You filed the case, but are you guys living together? And if you're not living together, please prove to me that you are. So that's the part that you want to focus on. It's definitely possible. You just really want to document it.
My boyfriend was accused of something he didn't do and got deported.
Oh.
Can he come back?
You would want to prove his innocence, right? So you might want to do a post-conviction relief if it's in a state court to show.
Potential spam.
Oh, okay. You would want to do a post-conviction relief. You want to reopen the case in a state court to show that he's innocent. If it was just on a finding by customs or immigration court, then you could try to do a motion to reopen, but it's really hard if the client's already out of the country because they're not even reopening cases for people who are in the country, let alone out of the country. Maybe you can apply for a waiver and say he actually didn't do it, but he just left, and try to prove his innocence that way. That has happened in the past, right? Where a client didn't commit marriage fraud, but USCIS deemed that client committed marriage fraud, and we have to prove, no, he did not commit it, but even if he did, it would cause extreme hardship to his new current spouse, so please forgive him for a wrong that he did not do, right?
For green card renewals, do immigration go back to DS-160?
Good question. We have not seen that yet. So as of now, green card renewals, when they are strict, they are focusing on criminal records as well as in the past 10 years, however long you've been here, did you leave the US for over a year, right? So we're seeing that kind of request for evidence. But if you're talking about even before getting the green card, your 485 application, the 160 application with the consulate, we have not seen them push that far. And I think it's for good reason. I have on good intel that the I-90 request for evidence, the green card renewal application, a lot of it is processed by AI, scrubbing the application and seeing if somebody's been out for a long time, seeing if somebody has a criminal case. That could be done through on a system-wide basis, so it's relatively easy. But if you're talking about having to review the 45 application, review the DS-160, that's going to be a lot longer and it's going to take personnel. And right now, USCIS does not have the spare personnel to do that.
Can people from the 39 banned countries still do interviews for citizens?
Are you talking about trying to get your citizenship overseas, like consular birth? If so, I believe you can, but I don't know. We haven't looked into it at all. I don't believe the ban bans that, but yeah.
For the deported boyfriend, he won his case in court, was proven not guilty, but they still deported him.
So just because a state court rules not guilty doesn't mean immigration would rule not guilty, right? And so that's one of the things that is very tricky. So on that basis alone, it is not sufficient. You still want to go through the waiver process, the immigration process, to prove that he really didn't do it, even though a state court ruled not guilty. That's tricky. And why is that? Because federal officers govern federal law and not state court. And so something, I mean, just put it this way. Even if you're not convicted, if you show up in front of a customs officer, an ICE officer, a USCIS officer, and you just say certain things, even if you're under the influence, you say certain things, they can take that and rule and convict you on the spot and deny your case, right? So no formal conviction, but they could still deny you based on that. And even worse, they can even take your phone, read through it, and say, you liked this post that your friend posted. It's anti-America. You are a threat to US, so now we're going to deport you too. That has happened, right? And so, no, I mean, not to exaggerate things, that was on a tourist visa. Person was coming in, they were looking at the phone, and so they revoked the visa. So they weren't deported, but they canceled the visa, and now they have a bar, they cannot come back for 5 years, right? But still, that's what the officer's abilities are.
I'm currently outside the US, returning to Seattle next month. Prior to this administration, I have been sent to secondary inspection. So what can I do to avoid being delayed or detained?
The first thing you should look into is DHS trip. So it's a trip advisory. And if you've been pulled into secondary multiple times, hopefully more than once, it's actually a good thing for you because then you can use it and say, hey, look, let's not waste everybody's time. You've already checked me multiple times, same issue, no new problem. Please just release me. Don't waste your time, don't waste my time. So DHS trip shouldn't take you more than 30 minutes. Look into it. If you don't know how to do it, then just book a consultation. We'll walk you through it, right? So that's the best way to help you immediately. In the future, if it's not a big issue and if you qualify, you could get global entry. Global entry might help you with this issue, right? Because sometimes they pulled you in because of a small criminal offense that you've done. That is not a big deal, but they still have to check every single time. If you get global entry, that might not be an issue anymore, right? And you might be cleared. So that's that might help you. If both of these two things don't help you, you get pulled into secondary. That is not the end of the world. You've done it multiple times. You're just waiting for an extra hour, 2 hours, or 3 hours at the airport. I know it's miserable, but it might be something that you can explain away. If you are uncomfortable, if it's an inconvenience, you could think about using the private airport services, right? So don't necessarily fly into a big airport, or when you do go to big airports, you use the private VIP services where you can stay at a lounge and wait and chill and eat while you're going through quote unquote secondary, right? And so a lot of celebrities do that. Look into it. We definitely have clients who do that, but that's solving the inconvenience problem, right? Like if it's something on your record, if they have to check you, they're gonna check you, right? And so it's just like, oh, well, it's so long. There's so many people ahead of me. Well, then use those kind of private services. Every single website, every single airport has their wait times posted, and you can pick a time that is most convenient with the least amount of people and pick that flight. It might be a little bit more expensive because you have to transfer flights to be able to get in at that time, but you can also save a couple hours at the inspection, right? And so there's a lot of these little things to tweak. Hopefully find this helpful.
Can you send the I-130 along with the 601A, and would that speed up the process?
No, we at least have never done it that way. Today's success story is about how we filed a 45 response with a 601, but that's at the adjustment status phase, right? So if you're talking about 601A, typically our clients and the way we've been doing it at the firm is you file the I-130, then when that's ends, after the National Visa Center, after that ends, then we do the 601A. Once that gets approved, then the client goes abroad. So we haven't filed two simultaneously yet. Unless there is another I-130 that was previously applied and you qualify, and then yeah, then that's a different story, right? That's a different story because you can have multiple I-130s.
Any update on the 75 countries?
We have not seen that update yet.
Should I join the litigation lawsuit for the 39-country pause to speed up the processing? I'm one of your clients whose birth country is in one of the banned countries, and we filed the N-400.
Yeah. From what I reviewed last time, the people who did succeed in the court, it's only available to the plaintiffs. So I do think it is something worth doing. Obviously, joining a litigation is quite expensive, in the thousands to join them, and you have to go through that litigation firm to do it. I don't think we filed any class action on this. I mean, we only usually do mandamus actions. So if you join, it might push your case forward.
If they're one of our clients, they can talk to their account manager, right?
Right, yeah.
People from the 39 countries, can they still do interviews if they're in the US? They have 10-year green card, but I heard there's a pause, so I won't get the interview?
I believe so, right.
My 765 was approved, went to SSN, and was told to wait for 4 weeks for USCIS to verify.
Green card approved, Social Security still wants to verify with USCIS? That's curious. We've never seen that before. Usually it's pretty instantaneous. But, it makes sense these days.
F2A category, inside the US, priority date is current, so when should I expect approval?
So you just filed, so it's current, so you just filed the 45. So typical 45 processing, we're estimating between 9 months to 13 months, especially with this new bombshell report that USCIS has tripled the amount of backlog. So, so hopefully you could get your work permit, reentry permit, or advanced parole within 6 to 9 months. Hopefully you get your interview during that time, and then green card processing within a few months.
Okay, so for this 765, their green card is pending, and they're told to wait 4 weeks for USCIS to verify for their SSN.
Oh, okay, okay.
But
45 is pending, and they're just, yeah, so that makes sense, right? If it's just a work permit, then they have to go double check.
my 730, I-730 embassy got 221G, and they canceled for 10 years to dual citizenship. So what should they do?
I don't know. We don't do a lot of 730s. Yeah.
If someone has an interview for I-130 at USCIS and the petitioner is in jail, what is the beneficiary's option?
I-130, petitioner in jail. And then what? What's the question?
What are the beneficiary's options for this interview?
I mean, still go and do your best. I mean, there's nothing else you can do, right? And depends who the petitioner is. And hopefully, whatever reason he is in jail or she is in jail is not going to be a disqualifying event, right? So if you look into Adam Walsh Acts, there are certain crimes that bar people from being able to petition others. Presumably in this situation, one of the biggest barriers is the financial ability, right? If they are the petitioner, well, then who's going to financially support you? So make sure you have your affidavit of support, your financial ability, so prove that, right? But other than that, just do a really good job on your application, go into an interview, and check all the boxes and make sure you succeed on every single front, right?
My Colombian husband, is it worth it for him to apply for a nationality that isn't subject to a pause and then update his info at the consulate since he received a 221G?
Is it worth it to update? Well, if he's dual national, just apply and then update the consulate. Yes, I agree, because they would definitely see both anyways. And then you want to be able to approve for that waiver, right? And so I would do that, but I would definitely prepare the arguments to explain the dual nationality. I will have the memo, I would inform them, I'll talk about the humanitarian reasons why they need to come and why they meet the exceptions. And you would still give them at least 8 months to 9 months after the interview for administrative processing, right? Because that's what we're kind of seeing. Be patient with them, but also be firm in what your requests are.
And I believe they are extra scrutinizing the buying some of the countries where you can buy citizenship. Is that accurate? Have you heard of this?
Absolutely. If you're dual national and you just got the second one, that is going to be highly frowned upon, especially if it's an investment-based one. But a lot of people actually have dual nationalities for a long, long time, not just the recent ones. The one I'm referring to is when Russia just invaded Ukraine, USCIS clamped down, and the Foreign Service clamped down on E2 applications, right? Because you could just buy a Turkish visa, you could just buy a Guam property and get their citizenship, and then you can qualify for E2. So then they made a requirement, you have to be able to live there for 3 years. So that cracked down on the E2. And then now, if you have certain dual nationality, then you could still get approved at the consulate. But the consulates they're not dumb, right? They're still scrutinizing everybody based on the president's executive order.
Okay, yeah. Other question about the 730. They're got 221G. The person is a dual national. Can we join a group lawsuit?
We don't do enough 730s to advise on that, but I can tell you by joining the lawsuit, it bypasses that, but it generally, I think, only bypasses it in the U.S. Consulate non-reviewability outside, it's still their call, right? So I don't think if you join the lawsuit and you're out of the U.S., it will help that much. But if you're in the U.S. doing adjustment, it might help.
Is approval for I-130 POSS, possession, possibly? Alien has 2 convictions of possession of marijuana over 20 grams. And that was 15 years ago. Oh, so is I-130 approval possible? 2 drug possession convictions over 20 grams for 15 years ago.
Off the top of my head, I don't know. What you can do is take that info plug into ChatGPT and say, is this an inadmissibility, a deportability, and does this prevent me from petitioning a spouse, for example, and see the analysis and ask it for it to back up with the ACFR immigration law, right? That's what I would normally do. Before ChatGPT, I would actually have to consult a criminal immigration attorney to kind of figure out exactly what those statutes are. Again, criminal immigration lawyer, right? Crimmigration, it's a very specialized service. But now with ChatGPT, you could probably just do that.
The person has been in the US for more than 5 times, and they got a 10-year B1, B2 visa cancellation.
Okay, so tourist visa got denied.
What should we do?
Depending on the reason for the cancellation, and I'm assuming the cancellation is by the customs officer, you could go back to the consulate and you can reapply and be able to explain why and prove why, and if the waiver is required, apply for a waiver. Something must have happened, and if it's, an accident, if it's something that the officer got wrong, again, U.S. does this to kind of safeguard themselves, right? If they have any sort of suspicion, they deny it and force you to reapply just in case, right? So just because one officer made that decision doesn't mean another officer can't approve it, right? So have some faith and also prepare a case well.
I was placed for oath ceremony after I've been waiting for 2 months, and now they changed that status to your case is being processed. What does that mean?
I don't know. It's rare for me to see an N400 application gets approved and then you are scheduled for oath ceremony and then for them to reverse it. Now, if you're part of the 39 countries, if you're part of the ban, that might be the case. But if it's not that, I'll be paying attention, right? And if you get called back for an interview, that's actually extremely rare. So something is definitely up.
Do you take PTO anymore?
Do I take PTO? I personally? Pay time off. Yeah, I take PTO all the time.
There is foreign agent news in the media. So how does the U.S. rule out Mexican foreign agents in relation to immigration?
How does the U.S. government find foreign agents? Great question. Let me walk you through an insight that I got. I know a lot of people complain about our immigration system and how stupid it seems. Consulate approving visas, USCIS approving green cards. Even after a green card gets approved, a CBP customs officer could take it away. Even after you become a citizen, now they could denaturalize you. It seems like the government is just this, insane amount of, hoops that people have to constantly jump to. And just like last week's live, we talked about, even after you get your citizenship, now there's this probation citizenship where they can, based on your conduct after your citizenship, they can go back and revoke it, saying your oath wasn't sincere. That's absolutely crazy. But you roll back the policy and you think about this from the government's perspective, it is far too easy to bribe one individual. Sometimes it's too easy to go through one particular process and you get approved. But to be able to continuously get approved day in and day out, different administrations, different agencies, different officers who have the same access to the same data and that cannot be erased, right? Everything you filed, it's in a data bank, it's always there. One officer approves it, but it's there. Next officer can go back and say, why did that officer approve this case? Nobody approves this type of case. And now they can go back and revoke it, right? So to answer your question, how does the government of the United States with just 2-year interns rotating through the consulate approving visas and have to decide if somebody can come to the US for the next 10 years and whether or not they're safe? There's no way that 20-year-old can figure that out if the other party is super sophisticated, right? But now, with time, with multiple data points, with AI, with new partnerships, with additional, insight and scrutiny. And when the client comes into the U.S. and that foreign agent's phone is being scanned by customs without their consent, and then they review it and they see, hey, this person doesn't really seem like what they're saying. AI checks it, revokes it. That's how the United States government deals with potential criminal activity. Who pays the price for it? Good civilians pay the price for it. But is it a trade-off? Is there a better way? I don't know. You tell me. But that was a very in-depth conversation I had with HSI back then.
How can I adopt my nephew? He stays in Orlando, and I'm in the Army staying in Texas.
I don't know. I haven't done an adoption case in a long time. We stopped doing it at our firm probably in 2014, I would say. Yeah.
Why are they rejecting 741 forms filed online?
I don't know.
I filed paperwork during Reagan amnesty.
Okay.
I never received anything, but they say I'm in the system.
The system could mean a lot of things. Yeah, hopefully you're not in the deportation system. So that could be what it means. It could mean you have a cancellation or removal, like nobody's deporting you. It could also mean you have a case that's there. You could get the green card. Nobody's moving it forward. You're not actively pushing it. It could mean a lot of things. Hopefully it means it for the better, in the fact that you were here and you filed a case a long time ago, and so far up to now nobody has tried to deport you. Those are all kind of good signs. But I would definitely recommend doing a Freedom of Information Act, a FOIA, to pull your entire record to find out exactly what your status is.
And what can they do to find out what system they're in and what that means?
So you could just do a FOIA with all the agencies. Like, here I am, this is my name, this is my birth date, give me everything you have on me, right? As people in the United States, you have that right. Even people outside of the US, you have that right? Anything the government has on you, they have to give it to you. Now, they might do it incorrectly, you have to appeal it, but at least they have that legal obligation under the Freedom of Information Act.
A person I know shared a story on social media that came from a government-funded media and then got in trouble, and then trouble.
You have a friend that shared a story from a government-funded media. Yes, that could totally happen. But even if it's not a government-funded media, even if it's just a tweet, you like a tweet of somebody else who said something. So not even, forget the whole government-funded media thing. A customs officer, when they review that phone and they see that, and if they reasonably can infer that you have anti-American beliefs, they have the right to deny you entry. And have they done it? Yes. Are they doing it more now in this administration compared to before? Yes, again. So what should you do? I don't know, scrub your phone, and also definitely be careful. Is that the right thing to do morally, ethically? Shouldn't America espouse freedom of speech and beliefs? Doesn't that make America better? Maybe only if you're a U.S. citizen. That's a very sad thing that we have to say nowadays, right? If you are only a permanent resident, if you're only a visa holder, if you're not a visa holder, if you have no status, custom under the guise of national security can revoke almost all of that. And so can ICE.
Do you know anything about sending in a motion to enforce after a bond was denied with granted habeas?
No, I don't know how to do that. Yeah, I haven't. That is definitely a removal defense expertise, and we just don't do that at the firm.
Okay, and can you sum up your answers to was placed in an oath ceremony, and then after 2 months it got changed back to your cases being processed?
Right. What's the question?
Can you just sum up your answer? What should they do? What does that mean?
Well, just you have to keep on watching, right? Because it is unusual that happens. And if you get a interview notice and you're called back, something is definitely up and you definitely need to prepare for it, right? And I would definitely recommend hiring an attorney to go with you. Normally, we don't recommend clients to spend the extra money to hire an attorney to go with them for naturalization or for the 45 interviews or 751 interviews. You know, I mean, we've done it a lot, we do it a lot, but we only recommend it for the most difficult cases. If you get called back, that will be a difficult case. They found something they really don't like and they want to re-interview you. But could it be a glitch? Maybe. And then could you be processed very soon? Maybe. So I also wouldn't trust too much the USCIS system. You know, those things are fluctuating all the time. But just be very, very diligent and mindful in watching that.
Would it be worthwhile for my Colombian husband? Oh, I believe we read this one already. To apply for a nationality that isn't in the pause.
Okay.
So feel free to add some more questions. I'll talk about some recent comments we've gotten. Oh, are you from Hacienda? Hacienda Heights?
I did go to church there for a long time, but we're based in Artesia, and I went to school in Temple City.
Interesting. They say OMG? I don't know if they know you or...
Maybe.
Okay. Have you done any Mexico entry recently?
Yeah. When's the last time we did? Like 2 weeks ago, maybe? I mean, we go every month. When was the vlog post? I mean, we vlogged the whole process. So if you check out our YouTube channel, we already posted that. So I think that was like 2 weeks ago. Yeah, because we just posted the vlog.
How did that one go? Do you have any takeaways from that?
Takeaway from that? I mean, yeah, I put a lot in the vlog. I mean, that was relatively easier case. You know, that's why we were able to vlog. I've been trying to vlog the whole experience for like, I don't know, half a year now. But every single time, because it's a difficult case, I'm not in the mind space to try to, you know, vlog and always focusing on the client. But this case was relatively simple. So I'm like, okay, I have confidence. And so we're vlogging the entire process. I don't know. The takeaway, I mean, you know, carry an extra battery for the client when they fly here because it's a long flight, and then if they run out of battery and the client got lost and the client got detained at the airport, and it's just like there was a lot of things, and then finally they got let out, and Margaret and I had to wait like extra 2.5 hours at the airport, but you know, all in all, it was smooth. It was hot. There was a lot of people. It was the longest Mexico entry ever for one client. Yeah.
How long did it take?
We left at 5 a.m. We didn't finish until like 12:30, and the sun was like hot, and so it was just like, it was a very tiring day. Yeah. But it's worth it, right? And the end of the blog is like, you know, we helped the client who's been out of the US for, I think, like 6 years to get back. You know, it's good. It was good.
So yeah, could you talk a little bit more about the 39 countries? I know we talked a little bit about it a couple of weeks ago, but there were a couple lawsuits that happened. Could you share a little bit more about those?
So the lawsuits that happened, the court agreed, and so the plaintiffs in those lawsuits are able to move their case to continue processing, right? They're essentially saying the executive branch does not have the authority to indefinitely hold these applications, right? That is Congress passed a law, people could do it, you know, out of emergency, out of executive order, you could pause it for, you know, a short time, but it cannot be indefinite, and it's already been too long, so the plaintiffs are permitted to continue. Now, that's going to get appealed. We'll see what happens. I also agree, you know, executive branch cannot have unlimited power, right? Because if they could just say, we're going to pause, you know, 39 countries, we're going to pause 150 countries, we're going to pause, you know, all 200, I don't know, 5 countries in the world, well, then you just effectively shut down the entire immigration process. Does the government have that authority? Does the president have that authority, right? So the answer is no. The answer is no. Now, for emergency war powers, temporarily, they could probably do some things, but not indefinite hold, right? And that's why a mandamus action, or an action that they have exceeded presidential authority, that still works, right?
I'm planning to visit my brother on dialysis in August. Admissions start in December. This is talking about B1, B1, B2 to F1,
Oh,
change of status.
okay.
So admissions start in September. After I apply, if I apply after 3 months, that's mid-semester and I won't get admission. If I wait for January, my 6 months will expire. What should I do? So yeah, they're
Yeah.
going from tourist
Yeah.
to F1,
Right. Right.
coming in August. Yeah.
Right. That is very tricky, especially because the memo last year in August 2025 said that now all change of status is discretionary. We're going to be posting a success story on this particular issue, in a few days, right? Maybe just within a few days. So watch that, but you have to be super careful about it. You might have to get a double I-20. You definitely need to work with the school about that. What is a double I-20? You get one I-20, you file the change of status, USCIS comes back and says your school start date already passed, provide a new one, then you provide a new one, then the school approves it, then USCIS approves it, then you can finally start, right? And so you might have to do that, but the timing is very tricky. Change of status is extremely more difficult now compared to it was in the past. Even if you fulfill all the requirements, it can still be denied if the officer doesn't believe you're really a tourist. You were a tourist, and you really are going to be a student. So, yeah, be careful, think through it, know the policy, prepare the case well, check out the story. If you have any additional questions, let's book a consultation and talk about it.
What have you seen recently? Like, what trends have you been seeing that you're really paying attention to recently?
I'm always paying attention to a lot of things, right? So I've been paying attention to the denaturalization news since Obama started in 2017. I'm always really sensitive about anything that's happening with customs and ICE, especially the link between the two of them, right? So for example, all the ICE agents being pushed to Canada. Why? I don't know. I'm curious, but that is something that I'm paying attention to. I'm, constantly meeting with customs officer. I'm going to the AILA conference in San Diego in a few weeks, I think June 17th. And there we're going to meet with customs officer, we're going to meet with USCIS officers, we're going to meet with CBP officers, and there's going to be a lot of news that usually drops right at that conference. So we're paying attention to that. USCIS, furlough, change in administration, e-filing, what the government is trying to do. At the end of the day, for the next 2-3 years at least, I don't think there's going to be anything huge as in like a huge immigration reform that's going to happen. I feel like anything big, I think it's going to be a lot of small things that are constantly changing. Like maybe biometrics are being redone. Maybe biometrics and ICE check-ins are going to be combined. Maybe humanitarian parole will be reinstituted because it got canceled last year in January up till now. So a lot of people can't get humanitarian parole to enter. Whereas in the past, plenty of people apply for humanitarian parole and get approved. That's not a visa. It is not a green card. It is not a citizenship. It's just purely to come in. And a lot of people couldn't do that, and so they're waiting outside of the US. But maybe once that opens up, a lot more people would be able to come in when they couldn't have done so in the past 2 years already. So that's going to be probably a big change. Will that be done through the CBP app or not? Like there's so many things that I'm constantly watching for because we have so many clients in different situations that are waiting for these kind of changes to happen, right? And so we'll see.
Can an adult citizen offspring petition a parent with 2 DUIs?
Petition, yes. Will they be able to get approved at the green card stage, right? So the I-130, yes, but will the 485 adjustment of status or will the National Visa Center consulate process be approved with that criminal record? And so the way you go about finding out is you take that two DUI offenses, get it from the court, look through everything, the exact code on which there was conviction, the sentencing, the conviction, the expungement, everything you can have, take that, plug into ChatGPT and say, is this an inadmissibility? Is this a deportability? Can I still adjust? And what are the exceptions? I believe you will probably, and the reason why I can't tell you is because it depends on so many things. The factors, the sentencing, what state you're in. In the past, you would have to do a detailed analysis, pay a lot of money to a immigration to get that maybe, right? Again, they never say yes or no. They should say maybe, most likely, yes or no. But AI does a pretty good job with that. At least you can do that for free. And you can do your best to try to apply, right?
Do you think priority dates moving fast means huge wait times for EB2 I-140 processing?
I think EB2 as well as EB1 processing will become faster, priority dates will become sooner. And when you file the 45, because then you're put in the bucket with all the other 45 applications, there's going to be a long adjudication. So even if priority date's faster, everything else is still very slow. And here's something you might not like. We're advising clients, and we've always advised clients this way. Just because you filed the 45, if you want to be secure, you still should keep your H-1B going. And you're like, what? That's so expensive, right? Every few years I have to renew my H-1B again. My I-140 is already approved. My 45 is already filed. Why do I need to be on H-1B? Because what if your 45 gets denied? And there's so many reasons why 45s get denied. And if you don't have an H-1B to fall back on, you have to leave. So the downside, so in the past, when 45 processing was short and you still have 1 or 2 years left on your H-1B, this was never an issue. You filed the 45, within a few months you go to an interview or no interview, case gets approved, you get the green card, you don't need H-1B anymore. But you might actually still have to apply for an extension. And you might have to do another extension, assuming there's a backlog too. So that's something that we're advising all the clients to do.
Do you think we're going to see any changes on bonds for people who entered illegally? I'm in the Fifth Circuit in Texas.
If you entered illegally without inspection, you're in the US undocumented, and ICE picks you up, doesn't matter which circuit you're in, it's mandatory detention, to the best of my knowledge. And that it is extremely difficult to get a bond because of mandatory detention. And I haven't seen exceptions. I have seen humanitarian relief in the sense of they get let out for a short period for emergency medical treatments, but they're still back in. It's not exactly a bond. That's what I've seen. And what's even worse, in my opinion, is people who came on ESTA legally from a partnering country of the United States, and they get picked up in certain districts. Even they are under mandatory detention and cannot get bond. So will we see bond being issued for a lot of these individuals? I don't think so. Sad to say, I don't foresee that happening in the next 2-3 years, because the entire goal of this campaign is to, bring the fear of the government, boil it into the people's blood, right? It is just, that is the goal, to make people so afraid that they would voluntarily leave. So if you issue bond, it defeats that entire purpose. Today's success story is about a husband who filed for a green card for his wife, and the United States government, USCIS, was about to deny them this case and deport her. And the reason is because the client came in on an ESTA, a visa waiver. So Canadians have ESTA privileges. A lot of countries around the world have ESTA privileges. If you think basically all the key partners of the United States all have ESTA privileges, meaning they don't have to apply for a visa, they could just come in, and usually they could stay and visit. But in the past, a lot of people have abused that. They come in with ESTA, they didn't apply for a visa, they get married, and they file for a green card. You can call that a loophole. You shouldn't do that, but people do. Past administrations, whatever, people still get the green card. This case, the officer said, no, I'm not going to allow it, and I'm going to deny the case, and I'm going to put a fraud and misrepresentation on this particular case. And the reason why is because they filed for the green card within 4 days of entering. And you might say, oh, they messed up. They shouldn't have done that. At least wait the 60 days, at least wait 90 days. You didn't prepare well enough. Whatever your position on this is, they didn't know. They thought it was okay. They did it. But now in front of the officer, they got this NOID, Notice of Intent to Deny. They have 1 month to respond, or else their case will be denied. They will be deported, and now they might not be able to get back for 5, 7, 8 years. They contacted our firm at that point, and in 3 weeks, we had to prepare an entire 601 waiver application saying that, please forgive this mistake. If you deny this case, it will cause the U.S. citizen husband extreme hardship. Please forgive her and him. And we responded to the NOID, and the case got approved. Andy and Alan worked really hard on this case, and this is one of those things where I'm just so happy that I built the firm this way, where we have the capacity at times when emergency arises, right? Because typical 601 applications, we take 6 months to a year to prepare, but we had to do it within 3 weeks. And because it was an emergency, we had to pull everything together and do it and like go full throttle on it. But the case got approved, and now, you know, they're saved, you know. And if I know for a fact, if we didn't do that, the case will be denied. A marriage might have ended, and the foreigner left, and they can't be together for that much time because they would have filed the 601 overseas. Much more difficult to argue. Even if it gets approved, you have to go through the National Visa Center process. Whereas this got approved, and within a month, the green card was able to arrive in the mail, right? So I just want to give everybody a very stern warning about ESTA, right? If you come in on an ESTA and then you get married and then you file for adjustment status, that is super risky in this day and age. It is, I know in the past 10, 20, 30 years, a lot of people did that and people still got the green card, but nowadays it's just that much more risky. And so we're really advising our clients, please reconsider. And we do have a lot of clients who do choose to do the immigration process overseas. And that's one of those things, right? We're seeing applications rise in the US, but we're also seeing applications rise overseas at different consulates too. So with that being said, you know, that was a success story. Just wanted to share that with everyone. And, you know, if you guys have any questions, feel free to reach out. Take care. Goodbye.